Hi, my friends. It's Lori Snyder again. I'm here at Riverside Secondary School on the unceded traditional ancestral territories of the Coquitlam people. We're going to go outside today and see who we can find. So come join me. Okay, here we go. Let's go outside and see who we can find. Oh, my friends, look what we found right here in the parking lot. I love this. I want you to know that life takes form anywhere it can plant the seed and then bring this incredible little ecosystem right here on the pavement. So this is white clover. And clover is really important as a pollinator plant, but also this particular type of species, which is a legume, actually pulls nitrogen from the atmosphere and brings it into the soil. And here's the thing about nitrogen. We need nitrogen to help grow the plants. What we want to be mindful is we don't have too much nitrogen to grow really big plants, but the nitrogen helps them to actually grow. So in our lawns, in our grass area, what we want is a diversity there. So we want the dandelion, the chickweed, the clover, the who's that other little one? Landcress. So all types of different plants to create that ecosystem so that we're feeding our pollinators. So look what I found. I found a collection or a community of some of our wild plants, and these are our introduced species, which are very common. As soon as we walk out the door, we're going to find these ones more before we actually find our native plants. So let's get to know them too, and what are their stories? So the first one let's talk about is the plantain. So look at that leaf. Isn't that beautiful? On the back of the leaf, it's got these deep ribs. So this is a really good way that we can identify. She's a little bit on a round egg shape, maybe, I would say. This plant was referred to as white man's footprint. And when it first arrived back in the 1600s. And as a new plant here on Turtle Island, what we call North America, we recognized this was another food and a medicine. So what I would share with you, my friends, is we're going to find plantain a lot in the grass areas, on the edges. Plants love to grow on edges. And if any of you have been stung by a bee, and maybe that hasn't happened for everyone, or you've been bit by a mosquito, which I would imagine everyone's had that experience, what I can do is go and find the plantain, white man's footprint, or even frog's leaf. The Musqueam people refer to this as frog's leaf. What I want to do is I want to fold it up and chew it. So what I'm doing when I'm chewing this leaf is I'm actually breaking open, the cell walls of the plant, which is going to access the enzymes. And these enzymes, when I put it on that bee sting or spider bite or the mosquito bite, it's going to actually neutralize the venom that's going into the body. And my friends, it can be very effective, and within a few moments, that sting or that itch is going to go away. So this is a beautiful plant that is here growing abundantly around us that's actually giving us some medicine. The other is I can eat it as a food. Tastes kind of green, like another salad that I can add in. It's very high in potassium, and potassium is an important mineral for balancing the sodium in our cells. And so, other, plants, vegetables, fruits, like for instance, bananas is where we get our potassium. But here we have it growing outside our door. So we can add a little bit into our salads and make that as a food. I can also make a tea with this. This is going to be really good for my lungs. And it makes a beautiful medicine to help flush any infections out of the body. So that was the plantain. That's its common name. Its Latin name is called Plantago major. So we have Latin names to help us. If I'm speaking to someone on another part of the planet and I say, do you have any Plantago major? Then they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If I use the word plantain, they might think I'm talking about a specific kind of banana. And then here on the coast, it's referred to as frog's leaf. So we can have many names for our plants. Next plant, the dandelion. And I know you all know that beautiful yellow flower that's one of the first spring flowers that's so important for our pollinators. And we're almost at the end of the season with the dandelion producing the flower. As you can see, I have a stem here. I've already lost the flower. The seeds have gone. Most likely the birds have come to eat those seeds. So recognizing this is an important pollinator flower, but also a food source for the birds. And what I want to let you know about your dandelion is that every part of this plant is edible. So we can eat the leaf, we can eat the flower, we can eat the root, and we can actually eat the stem. And this one is a little bit on the bitter side. And you might notice when you open up the dandelion, it has that white sort of milky substance. That's the latex. This one's kind of dry. I'm not really getting that much latex out of it in this moment. And that latex, you could have allergies. If you have allergies to latex, then dandelion is not going to be a great plant for you. Now, that bitterness, here's the thing about bitters. Bitters help the gallbladder to produce the bile. The bile then goes into the gut, and it's going to help to break down fats. And when you really start looking at cultural foods, you're going to notice that so many of us ate lots of fats. Here on the coast, they would have been eating lots of salmon. They would have been eating lots of meats of deer. On the prairies, it would have been buffalo. And all those beautiful food sources are actually feeding our brains. So my friends, make sure you're getting lots of good fats in your diet. Not French fry fats. We want avocado fats, fish fats. And so we can feed that brain. So this is a really great food source. The leaf has vitamin C and that potassium that I mentioned that we also get in the frog's leaf. I can make beautiful teas out of this, so I can dry the leaf and make teas later. And this leaf is going to be really good for my kidneys. It's going to flush out the kidneys, help to replenish them with this beautiful potassium, and really help to make sure that organ is really strong. We can use the leaf. We can add it into our salads. How beautiful that is to have a little bit of the wild foods in our salads. And then that root, what I'm doing with the root is I'm digging it up in the early spring or in the late fall, and I'm going to chop it up and I'm going to put it in an apple cider vinegar. So why apple cider vinegar is a beautiful solvent, if I could use that word, that's going to extract out the calcium, the iron, the beta carotenes, and the inulin out of that dandelion root. And what I want you to know, dandelion root can go probably a meter down into the earth. And what it's doing is it's pulling those minerals out. It's also aerating the soil. When we don't have any oxygen in our soil, then we don't have these microorganisms that are really important to supporting plants to grow. And it also helps with drainage. So what happens over time when we're walking on the soil, we're compacting that soil. So these beautiful plants, not particularly here because they're just growing in the cracks, but in the grass, what they're actually doing is helping to aerate and to make good drainage and pull up those beautiful minerals for us. So my friends, what I want you to know, the minerals are really important for your endocrine system, and that's your hormone health. And what we want to do is really help to stabilize that and make sure that we put minerals. So we can use the dandelion root in apple cider vinegar. I can eat it fresh. I can roast it with my vegetables. I can dry it up and grind it, and then I can make a coffee substitute. So it's very similar to tasting like coffee. It's got that beautiful bitter complexity to it, and just another way for us to access the wild foods that are growing outside our door, that we can easily come out and harvest, and also make sure they don't take over our whole garden, but that they're actually providing some food for us. And when we build that relationship and foster reciprocity, then we want to know more about them, and then we want to know about the next plant that's growing here in our forest.